Hello, my name is Gemma and I'm from the Wishing Well project. This presentation is about sensory exploration. This is week 6 and we are focusing on the proprioceptive system. We are following on from last week when we were focusing on the vestibular system. So far, we have explored the auditory system, the olfactory system, the oral sensory system, and the vestibular system. This week, our main focus will be the proprioceptive system. We always like to start with a reminder from the week before. So we're starting with the red flag indicators that indicate vestibular sensory difficulties from week 5. So just some brief reminders. A child that seems to be constantly moving, fidgeting and or spinning around might have some vestibular sensory difficulties. If they appear fearful of movement, such as stairs or playground equipment and or swings, they could have difficulties. If they appear uncoordinated or clumsy, such as bumping into things or falling, or if they have difficulty learning new motor tasks, if they slump, slouch or lean on desks or walls when they're walking in the hallway, or if they have difficulty maintaining balance when they are walking or during gross motor play, or if they have difficulty with visual activities or tracking. Remember, when we're looking at these red flag indicators, some of them could be hypersensitivities and some of them could be hyposensitivities. So there's a bit of a mixture going on here, but they are all red flag indicators. Okay, so moving on to today's sense that we're focusing on. It's the proprioceptive system. So the proprioceptive system is all about coordination, balance and movement. And it refers to the way our joints and muscles are sending messages to our brain, and then how our brain is processing that information about how our body is moving. Our body instinctively knows when more or less effort's needed for different tasks. So if we have a healthy system, and if your child has a healthy system, they can play, they can explore, they can move, coordinate, and they know how, whether to be rough, whether to be gentle, and how much pressure to apply in an efficient way. They're able to grip things effectively, they're able to handle things with care. And that's an indication that their proprioceptive system is working efficiently and healthily. So problems with the proprioceptive system. This is hypersensitivity. So what might give us an indication that things aren't functioning quite right. Difficulties with motor planning or difficulties with visual tracking. Some children may hold their bodies in odd positions. They may struggle with fine motor skills. So, for example, they may have difficulty using and manipulating tools. So they could have difficulties with writing and things, for example, finding it difficult to hold a pencil. They may move their whole body to look at something rather than sort of isolating parts that need to move. Individuals may struggle with manipulation of small objects. So they might struggle with things like buttons, might struggle with things like shoelaces, things like that. So now looking at hyposensitivity, problems with proprioceptive system. So individuals may find it difficult to judge spaces, so there's the spatial awareness. Sometimes they might misjudge distance, so it might be in other people's personal space, or they might find it difficult getting around a room, might bump into things or trip over things. They might not be aware of their own body senses, so not feel hunger. They might appear floppy, might lean against people or lean against furniture or walls. They might stumble frequently or have a tendency to maybe fall over. And they might have a weak grasp or drop things, have a tendency to drop things. So there's a bit of a cheat sheet with proprioceptive avoiding behaviours and proprioceptive seeking behaviours. So to start with the avoiding behaviours, so children may act scared of movement activities. They may seem fearful around playground equipment, seem fearful of elevators, dislike being turned upside down or being picked up, tend to appear stubborn, avoid stairs or holds onto the railing tightly with both hands, or tend to appear clumsy or uncoordinated. Whereas proprioceptive seeking behaviours seem unable to sit still, need to be in constant motion, seemed very impulsive, seem unable to get enough movement, run everywhere instead of walking, take unsafe risks both inside and outside, and prefer to be upside down or hang off a couch. So proprioceptive activities to try. These would be supportive for a young person that has sensitivities in this area. So weight-bearing activities like crawling and push-ups. Push-ups, it would be worth demonstrating to a child how to do those to make sure they do them accurately. Resistance activities, pushing and pulling. So that could be just playing a game, but it could be choosing a specific piece of play equipment in the park that does a pushing and pulling gesture, and sort of identifying that for a child to play on. Or it could be initiating a game that involves pushing and pulling. Heavy lifting, it could be carrying books, or it could be a gardening task that involves some heavy lifting. Cardiovascular activities, it could be any of those listed, or it could be other cardiovascular activities that are appropriate for a child of their age. Oral activities, again, could be those listed, or it could be any of the oral activities that were listed in the week when we focused on oral sensory processing. Deep pressure tight hugs, that's quite straightforward. Spinning, riding on trikes and bikes, jumping on trampolines, and swinging. Oh, just to come back to spinning, if you haven't yet looked at the vestibular week when we discussed that, spinning could be as spinning refers to a child standing with their arm out at the sides and literally spinning, turning around. So just if you weren't aware. So weighted resources, and I have put a note at the side that it is best to get some consultation with an occupational therapist before using weighted items. The main reason being with this is weighted resources are normally chosen for the child depending on the weight of the child and the size and the height of the child. So when you're deciding which one is most appropriate, like with blankets and with jackets and things like that, the occupational therapist would measure the child and review the sizing of the child and everything before a product was given to a child. So that's why I've just made a note of that next to it. But there's a variety of products available. There's jackets, vests, blankets, lap pads, and animals. There's all sorts available. Thank you for listening to this presentation on the proprioceptive system. If you would like any more information at all, you can contact me on my email address at gemma.edwards@wishingwellproject.net, or you can contact me on the office number at 01270 256 919. I will soon be working on the next presentation, which will be focusing on the next sense in the sensory system. Okay, thank you.